Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. Today I will be showing the first look in a game called Naval Action, a game set in the beautiful age of sail when the big sailing ships rule the high seas. Note, this is a very early alpha, so meaning it's just testing grounds for the basic gameplay mechanics and concepts. And it's currently only featuring multiplayer online battles between one of the 11 detailed model ships which are in the game. So this is a very early stage of development, but it's already very fun and engaging. So the game in its current implementation features combat and sailing, and right now the focus is on the player versus player and player versus environment combat. In this video I am showing a player versus player game with a total of 5 ships battling it out. And on one side we have a snow, which I'm currently showing here, and this is a sailing ship design based on HMS Ontario, a Royal Navy brig sloop that actually sank in a storm in Lake Ontario during American Revolutionary War. It has been recently discovered in 2008 and has been, like all the other ships, modeled in a great detail by the developers. I must say, the level of the detail that has been given to each ship, it's mind-boggling. It's really impressive, and this makes me really excited to be actually showing you this game. Now, when it comes to combat and sailings, as I said, the focus here is naval combat, and this is what I will be showing today in this video. Note that this game requires you to pay attention to, like some other previous games, like to wind direction, but this is the only game so far that I have seen where you have direct manual control over the tacking of the sails, which puts a much bigger strategic focus on how does your ship turn, how are you tacking upwind, downwind, and so on. So also the gunnery that has been implemented in the game, it's very simplistic but very effective. As you can see from the image here, now I'm testing the range towards an enemy ship before I actually fire a full-on broadside. The GUI that you can see in front of me is very simple yet very effective. In the bottom left corner you have a diagram of your ship, which shows the direction of the wind, the tacking of the sails, and your current status. In the bottom you have basic rudimentary commands for the ammo of which type of shot you will be using, and some basic focus on like repair, sailing, gunnery, or survival. Those are different focuses which your crew should be focusing on during the gameplay. And it provides some minor boosts. For example, sailing will give you a better turning rate, speeds, gunnery will give you some faster reloads, while survival will be plugging the leaks, which you will see me using a lot more during this video. Now, as I said, there are a total of 11 ships, and those range from a very small yacht, very small type sloops like yachts, all the way up to the huge and impressive hulks that are second-rate and first-rate ships of the line, like HMS Victory, for example, and the recent one like Santissima Trinidad, which are really massive hulks, but although not that maneuverable. The snow which I'm sailing here is somewhere, let's say, towards a little bit further from the beginning, and I hope to be covering more ships in case my viewers like the video and would like to see more. So as you can see through the hourglass, this was a video on the small cutter that is sailing across, and we are 3 people in the team, and we are facing 2 other ones. My teammates have already engaged in a fight. I'm a little bit late behind due to my starting position, but I'm trying to close the distance as quickly as I can to help them out. As I said, the gunnery model is quite simple. You have an aiming reticule, which you can use and a display on the water, which shows you roughly how is your targeting, and then you can use the eyeglass to estimate the distances. Once you fire a ranging shot, then you can see how far you have hit, and then based on that you can fire a broadside. So simple, but it works and it's very effective. Also, you will hear the whistles blowing, and those whistles from the sailing master will indicate various events like collisions and, for example, when my guns have reloaded. So it's cool to pay attention to these small things. Also, since the wind plays a big role, you have to pay attention to your sailing technique. The good thing about it is that you start with actually small, with sloops and yachts, which have different types of sails, so they're much more forgiving in times of tacking. But once you come to a bigger ship like brig or snow, this will actually force you to start learning about how to tack your sails, how do you sail a little bit upwind, or how do you take the side wind, and so on. Also, when it comes to gunnery in this game, friendly fire is a thing. So you have to be really careful when aiming not to hit your friends. As you can see me here, I'm firing a couple of my bow chasers, and now trying to hit one of my opponents, the second-hand leopard, in his brig. Now I'm just ranging the shot, and then I'm firing a full broadside. And as you can see, my aim is pretty lousy. As you can see, my friends have already engaged in close quarters, and what I'm trying to do here is basically try and come as close as I can to start helping them out. Usually, a good rule of thumb is that ships are modeled very accurate, and they are based on actual historical blueprints, so they are modeled in great detail. And an interesting thing to mention is that every single cannonball is being tracked in the air and when it's hitting the target. So the damage modeling is very realistic, and I must say I'm really impressed by the damage modeling that has been so far. But the developers are, as I said, this is a very early alpha, and they're constantly tweaking to make this game even better. So now, as you can see, we're exchanging cannonballs between me and Snow Leopard. And at this range I'm firing ball ammunition, but you will notice me switching to double shooting my guns because they are better used in close range, and when used properly they can be very, very devastating indeed. Now, as you can see, I have switched my focus to gunnery, and that will give me a slight boost on the reload, so my crews can fast reload, and you can see me firing a broadside. Notice that in the bigger ship battles you have to pay special attention to also where you're heading, because most of the fights have been happening in line, so you have to be careful not to ram your colleagues or your teammates. So as you can see here, now I'm firing cannonballs at his hull, and you can damage hull, sails, rigging. If you're very good at aiming, you can even dismast the ship. And also the positioning on when you're timing and where you are shooting your cannonballs. It's also very, very important. Now, as you can see me here, I'm trying to take two ships at the same time, which is usually a bad idea, but I'm pretty confident, since I'm using the snow, that it is a durable ship that can withstand some punishment. And here I'm using a double shot, which is very devastating on my opponent. As you can see in the top right corner, his armor has taken quite a lot of beating. As I said, positioning is also very important, and you can see me trying to turn, and I will try to rake this brig. And usually in the history, raking shots were particularly damaging because cannonballs would be hitting the rear area of the ship, which had the least armor, and then they would travel due the whole length of the ship, damaging the guns, dismounting them, and killing crew. And this has been implemented in the game, and it's a very, very effective technique in disabling the ships. This is another enemy in the snow, or actually this is in a brig. And the brig, although slightly more maneuverable, is still vastly outgunned by the snow. It's a total, I think, of 8 or 9 guns on one side versus the snow's, I think, 11. And as you can see here, he's basically trying to rake me from behind. I will be firing my rear chasers. So aiming is, when it's at close quarters, it's pretty simplistic. You just aim and fire your broadside. Now, a little bit in the back, you can see another of my teammates, which is sailing a cutter. This is a very, very nice, very maneuverable ship, although it is very lightly armored and cannot take much punishment from the heavier brigs or snows. Now, as I said, here you can see that this is pretty much a PvP battle. This is just the beginning. The game will, in its future implementations, will be featuring a full open world sandbox. The developers are claiming that it takes a considerable amount of time in real time to sail from one end of the world to the other, and they will also try to implement and see the exploration, that it's also profitable and interesting for the players. But we will see what that features when they come. Right now, what feels here, the actual sailing mechanics, gunnery and ship-to-ship combat feels very interesting, very engaging, and when you're looking at it, it seems slow-paced, but when you're actually controlling various aspects of the ship, it's really fun and engaging. And much different than the previous games like Pirates of the Burning Sea or any others. So far it's showing a lot of promise. Here you can see me manually tacking my sails, trying to turn my ship so that I can actually engage in some more combat against the second-hand leopard. Now I will try to be a little bit silent for a second and let you appreciate the full range of the sounds and the combat and mechanic and that this beautiful game provides. can see, the cutter here, one of my teammates has taken too much damage and is now sinking by flooding. So it cannot take much punishment, but it's very agile and very maneuverable, so it relies on its speed rather than its armor. Here from now on, I think I will be fighting toe to toe with the snow. The benefit is clearly that I'm using a double shot, which creates a lot of damage on my enemy's ship, and he is almost nearly finished, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That means only that his armor has sustained heavy damage, and you can use the repair kits. You get 3 in total for the time being to repair your armor to a degree, but also each cannonball is creating leaks if hit it below the waterline. So that means that pretty much if you don't pay attention to plugging the leaks by switching to the survival mode, your ship can and will eventually sink. As you can see on my ship's diagram in the bottom corner, I'm already taking some water due to the leak that one of the cannonballs has probably caused. So I have now switched to survival mode so that my crew could focus on fixing that leak. All the while I'm trying to basically pound Sundowner to oblivion. So, I hope you like this preview. His ship is almost done, and so is our preview. If you have liked the video, please do like the video and let me know in the comments that you would like to see more of this content. Thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.